IVM.
So welcome to another week on IVM. If you aren't following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. This week on Simplified in a Shorty, Naren and Shrikit simplify the phenomena of near-death experiences with interesting cases and scientific theories. On Pragati, Pawan and Hamsani are joined by economic policy expert Yazad Jal to discuss negative and positive rights. On the scene and the unseen, Amit Verma is joined by stand-up comedian Aditi Mittal and our production controller Swati to discuss misogyny and popular culture. On Pulyabazi, Saurav and Pranay speak to Shruti Rajgopalan about the meaning and importance of property rights in India. This week on Shunya One, we have Suchita Salwan, founder and CEO of LBP, a local recommendations platform striving to discover all things new and old. On Hustle Science, Ranveer and Tejaswan speak to their buddy, tech entrepreneur and founder of Hello Inc., Angad Nadkarni, to understand his coding craze and a lot more about his stories. And now, on to your shows.
You're listening to TFG Football.
Hello and welcome to another episode of TFG Indian Football Podcast. Today we are all stuck inside our respective homes because it's raining outside. It's raining where I am and it's raining where Kevin is. Kevin, you're in Mumbai, right?
Oh yes, the rains have prevented us to move out of the house, and I think the studio quality sound which you always hear from us will be missing out today. IVM Podcast is trying their best to get highest quality on this podcast, but bear with us if we aren't able to deliver that.
Yeah, it's raining quite a lot in many different parts of the world. As we speak, there's a football team stuck in a cave in Thailand, and divers are trying to rescue them. This is Monday, 9th of July. And hopefully within a day or two, they will safely come out. But it's raining many different things in Indian football at the moment as well. First of all, we have that controversy going on with Indian Olympic Association denying Indian football teams a chance to go to the Asian Games. And some clubs are picking up the speed, and some extra twists and turns are happening in the whole narrative of I-League, ISL, and mingling of the two. So let's first continue on Narinder Batra, the IOA chief, Indian Olympic Association chief. He came out with a statement after Indian national teams were denied permission to go to Asian Games. AIFF came out and said, we'll pay for it. Just let us go, let us play, let us have that platform and get that experience. He came out and said, this guy, Narinder Batra, he says, we know Indian football team is not top 8 contender, and if we send them, it will bring shame to India. What is this guy smoking? I just
wow.
What's going on, Kevin?
No, this is very blunt. This is brutal actually, and just putting it out straight. It's just putting down one of your own family members in front of the whole world, saying they're not capable, they're not deserving. And if this was the criteria, India should have been shining at Olympic Games in every respect, in every discipline, sporting discipline that we are part of. But that's not the case. If your criteria says that the top 15, the top 10 in the world ranking or the Asian ranking goes and participates, you're expecting a lot from that contingent that goes there. But that's really not close to what we've seen the results over so many years. But it is a reality that we have to face. What we are talking about here, Chiranjeev, I think it's the way to put it in front of everybody. It being so brutally honest about things doesn't bring your country in good light. At least in front of viewers who are expecting India to shine in all sports. But it's just a sad way to just gulp this reality that we are facing. And it could have been said in another way. Probably you have a criteria, but bringing shame to the country just sounds as if even in the next edition we don't look like being there again in the top spot to being sent again by the Olympic Association.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It just sounds wrong. It just sounds like he's got some bias here. and this is just my perception, he sounds bitter. Otherwise, why would you put down an entire sporting discipline like that by saying the national team brings us shame? Which sporting team we say that about? Like Indian cricket team loses or gets thrown out of that happened 2007. Indian cricket team got thrown out of the group stage of the World Cup, lost to Bangladesh and all that stuff. And the media was crying shame on the country and all that stuff that their performance had. It was a ridiculous, hyped up thing, but that was from the media. It was not like the sports minister or other people who are actually in charge of developing and caring for sports in the country. They did not go around and saying, this is shame on our country. What are we, North Korea? That sporting performances are treated by officials in that language? Like, it's so disrespectful. It's so ignorant, I would have to say, because this guy, I don't think he understands anything about what football is and what it takes to improve in this sport. He's from International Hockey Federation, and less people play hockey than the number of people who play football in let's say a small Indian state like Mizoram or Kerala. Let's say even in entire people, let's just say take the city of Kolkata. There are more people who play football on a regular basis than people who play hockey around the world. And I don't think it would be a wrong estimation on my part to say that. It's just not on the same scale. 10-12 log ko khel ke, and he's born into it's lucky for us that we have a world-class hockey tradition that goes back almost 100 years. Right, and this guy comes from that sport, has administered that sport, and he's judging a sport like football, where everybody competes, where more than 200 countries participate in the whole process, and we're trying to find our place among that. There is no other sport like that. So unless somebody has actually come in and seen the depth of talent, how hard the challenge is to improve when almost like more than 150 countries have made football their first priority around the world and they're putting everything behind it, they will never understand what it means to move up 3-4 spots in football. They don't understand what it means to beat Thailand in a football match, in an Asian Cup game, and just think about, okay, 20 years ago they used to beat us or 5 years ago they used to beat us pretty easily. Now we got one over them. They don't know how much sacrifice goes behind that small step, and that's why they can judge us.
And even if you consider that this is not even the world stage as yet, it is still the continental level where we're expecting a lot of competition to be as good as in the developing nations, where India has proven themselves in multiple sporting departments. That it doesn't require all the infrastructure in the world to make a good team, and it could have been a good example looking at various age teams that we are putting up, and even considering the success. If I can just double quote that, if you just highlight that word, success of hosting the Under-17 World Cup. I think that just had to carry on the momentum of last year. It's very decent that the world has started to take notice of India as a footballing nation. I won't say the big footballing nation, but then it's very much active and very much heading towards a professional direction. So there we had a chance to at least carry on that little recognition that we got from the World Cup hosting. It just put us down. It was sad to see the hopes being carried over by so many. You just look at social media. So much is being talked about having crowdfund this team, having even the football federation said that they are ready to bear the expenses. It just shows the support and the willingness of the federation and the crowd behind it to push the team forward. If this was not the case, to convince them, I don't know what will really convince them.
Yeah, definitely. And just imagine something. I'm going to take an example from the Under-17 World Cup. India versus Colombia. We almost won that match, didn't we? We lost it. We scored a goal. They came back and scored, and
we won it and we lost it in the same moment.
Yeah, but see, with any luck, with us not hitting the post and all that, we could have won that game. It was a game where it was tangible. A victory was tangible in that game. But could we have envisioned an Indian team being that competitive with a Colombia team? A Colombia that has played in the World Cup so many times, has a vibrant football culture, it's pretty competitive in Copa America, right? Plays World Cup.
Yeah.
So if we had not seen that happen, if we had not taken that chance by hosting the World Cup and thrusting a well-developed or developed as much as we could kind of under-17 squad into the mix, had we not taken the step, we would have never earned that, and by not participating, like imagine Colombia under-23 playing in Asian Games. They would win a medal. Compared to South Korea or China or Japan or whoever else is the prime contender in Asian Games. They would win a medal. If a 2-year development plan or a 3-year development plan at under 17 level can make us competitive with Colombia, if just IOA just stays with AIFF for a moment and says, okay, we will work with you in this, just allow you to go out and test yourself, maybe in a 7-8 year period, we become competitive with Japan and Korea in the under 23 level. It's not rocket science. You just have to believe and be positive and hopeful about the sport and trust and understand that efforts are being done to improve Indian football. And here he is like, I'll pick up my hockey stick and I'll go home. I won't let you play. That's what this guy is doing, and it's just so cynical and just smells of bad bureaucracy. And I just wonder, is he a bit bitter about all the leagues that hockey started not being so popular, while the new Indian Super League becoming probably the second or third most popular league in the country and making a lot more money? Has that played a part in IOA not being so kind towards football? Let's just say, okay, they have set a criteria, but they should understand, India playing in football is very different from India playing in sepak takraw, right? Or squash or whatever it is that where we may be the 6th or 7th best. Even if we win the gold medal, those games are never going to be as popular as football, or as important as football in terms of society building or connecting the country or really uplifting us in the world stage. And if we don't participate, we will always be that country who only does well in less practiced sports like kabaddi or cricket or whatever, kho-kho. We will keep winning the Kabaddi and Kho-Kho World Cup. So let's just play that. Let's just play cricket, hockey, Kabaddi and Kho-Kho. Forget everything else because we don't win anything anyway. So yeah, that's what.
I think it was important to look at it from a different angle, not just getting trophies or getting medals from.
Exactly. Imagine.
It had to be developing the sport, also carrying forward that commercial value as well. I think somewhere if you don't see a product that's commercially viable, or at least getting the attractive sponsorship, or having foreign, I'm not saying foreign, even having interest from those key players in the sport. You require the backers. You do require different kinds of stability behind the sport. You want the supply to be coming in. You want the investment coming in. That is what also have to be considered, not just medals. If you have a sport that is being recognized, that is being played, that is being invested on, I think that just shows the future of the sport. And I think in India we already saw the future is being talked about. It's being spread across the mission level million. We really don't talk about the positives over here. I think it has done a great deal of work to just get a recognition right, which I felt was the key point missing to develop a sport in India. And so it just required that momentum to be carried forward, and really feel let down by this.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we'll have to leave it at that. Indian football teams, the men and the women, are not going to the Asian Games, and this is going to hamper, all the preparations that we were hoping it would give the teams ahead of Asian challenges and other big tournaments that are coming up. World Cup qualifiers are starting next year. This would have been helpful for that as well, but we live in the world that we live in, and it's just up to the AIFF to pick up the tab and organize more friendlies, maybe more tournaments, go into different parts of the world, and give the boys and the girls the exposure that they need in making that progress. Because IOA has made it clear they're not supporting Indian football at all. So we'll come back after the break. Some good news on the other side. East Bengal is starting a new chapter in its long history, and pretty much everybody is excited. Stay tuned.
Give me a word. या कोई भी लाइन, कुछ भी हो सकता है यार. क्या कहा आपने? टोपी. Okay. Mohan Joshi hated wearing topis. He felt suffocated in them. टोपी पहनते ही उसे स्कूल की याद आती थी. Where of course he had no choice but to wear a टोपी. But जिस दिन पास आउट हुआ, उसी दिन उसने अपनी टोपी का bonfire बना दिया. And since then, he'd never worn a cap or a hat. ना कड़कती धूप में, and not even to बचाओ from the ठंडी. But from Monday 26th February, Mohan Joshi had to wear a topi all the time. Why? Because if he didn't, everyone around him knew exactly वो क्या सोच रहा था. They knew that he was wondering how the girl in the yellow churidar would look बिना कपड़े के. They knew when he was calling the boss a sadela टमाटर. They knew everything. पर ये सब हुआ कैसे? अरे भाई, यही तो स्टोरी है. और ये स्टोरी आप ही ने मुझे दिया by giving me the starting word. यही तो है the Croc's Tales. Words आपके, कहानी आपके लिए. Catch the stories on Monday and Thursday on the IVM website, app, and anywhere you get your podcast from. See you soon.
So, a few days ago, at Park Hotel, I think it was Park Hotel, or one of the hotels, many hotels in Park Street, East Bengal Football Club held a press conference where they unveiled that they had a new sponsor, and not just a sponsor, it's a partner. It's a partner who specializes in business development and, returning financial returns. It's Quess Corp, who have a footprint all over the world. They have different kinds of partnerships with different kinds of companies in different sectors. And what they do is uplift a brand. And, I don't completely understand what they do, but they're in that business. But they are also in sports apparently now. They have tied up with East Bengal Football Club, and it's just the biggest deal in Indian football any club has made ever. It's 70% of the shares will go to East Bengal. Sorry, will go to Quess Corp, and East Bengal will be called Quess East Bengal FC, for now at least. And
bring on the trolls, bring on the meme.
Yes, no question about it. So yeah, they're gonna have that, and they will invest a shitload of money. If East Bengal plays in I-League, it's 10 crores a year. If they play in ISL, there is no upper limit. It can, but the moderate estimates say it's going to be 40-45 crores a year. And if that happens, that will be the most pricey, glitzy football club football side ever made in Indian football history. If East Bengal make the jump, Kevin, when you heard about this news, what was your reaction initially?
It brings a big cheer. Firstly, if you look at it from a point of view that investment is coming into football, and this is a big investment, and
literally the biggest investment ever in club football. Yeah.
So it's just not money. It's development. I feel development is being not thought about over here.
Yeah.
When you say you make it straightforward. You play in the I-League, you have so and so budget. You play in the ISL, you have 10 times or whatever the number of times.
4 times, yeah.
Yes, it increases. It just shows you the plan ahead. So when things can be seen from a distance, that it becomes easier for a club or a partnership to work better. So we see a good vision by Bengaluru FC. I always associate the vision in Indian football with Bengaluru FC. Here we see a good corporate deal being talked about for a team that has been existing for almost a century or over a century, and it's been active as well. So let alone the trophies being not touched upon, at least at the national level, but they are a club that is participating in so many tournaments. They have a rich history, and you club it with a partnership that's proven earlier. And for me, it was good news because we see a lot of movement happening towards professionalism in Indian football, and especially about these two Kolkata clubs. We obviously see a lot of fights happening before we entered over here. A lot of chaos was there in the back room. But this is a more professional approach, at least, looking at where they stand at the moment, let alone the differences that they were there in the board. This just gives a good look to things ahead for East Bengal. Probably, the professional approach that Chiranjeev always, you've been talking about.
Yeah.
It just gives a good angle for the club to look ahead.
Yeah, and two main points that needs to be considered in this deal, because it's a landmark deal in Indian football. Make no mistake about that. The first is we have the money is there, and it's a brand building company, right? And we know that East Bengal and Mohun Bagan are two of the least used brands in the country. They have so many fans, but most of that fan base is sleeper because the club never reaches out to them, has never felt the necessity to reach out to them and market themselves to them. They just take those for granted, and that's why those fans, the more casual ones, rarely engage. That's why the big difference between the derby attendance and the regular game attendance. And it would be surprising maybe for most, especially those who are used to the ISL atmosphere and the ISL culture, that in its long history, neither East Bengal nor Mohun Bagan, nobody ever had a marketing team, a professional marketing team, who would try to get sponsors, who would try to bring in advertisement, who would try to look at things like ticket pricing with strategy and generating more revenue for the clubs, especially when we're entering a era in Indian and world football where it's no longer enough to just sell 20,000 tickets. It's about getting more visibility on TV. That's what decides what kind of sponsorship you get and how much money you make in the end. So if that's the benchmark, then you need professionals. And these East Bengal and Mohun Bagan officials were just trying to micromanage this by trying to use their own business contracts. But if you're not a specialist, your contacts are limited. Your expertise, your understanding of the matter is also limited. So that's why they were getting shitty deals all over the place, both East Bengal and Mohun Bagan. Heineken lost out on such a huge opportunity when they kicked East Bengal in the gut and pulled out of the partnership. Now see what they've got, and it's literally astonishing how they managed to retain their control over the club. And that's the second point. East Bengal will redo its executive board. There will be 8 people on it. 4 people will be from Quess Corp, the new partners, and 4 people will be from East Bengal club itself. But the veto power stays with the East Bengal club group itself. Quess Corp will not have the final say in what is done at the club. And that is huge. Imagine, I didn't really think it was possible till it was announced. I thought whoever was going to come in, they will want majority shares and they will want full control of the club, which is fine, which is fair. It's a completely justified demand because you are putting in an insane amount of money. So you want to know that things will be done rightly, and for that you need executive control. But Quess Corp have come in and said, hey, we're okay with you having the final say, but let's have a 50-50 partnership on the board and give us the majority shares. So what it looks like is that Quess Corp are they're not in it for good. They're not in it for like a 100-year haul or just becoming a part of East Bengal forever. They have a 10-year plan. They want to grow the brand as much as possible. Then sell it off to somebody, or either make releasing it in the share market, or having a private takeover where they will make a profit. And it's a very different kind of a plan, but at the same time, the footballing control, like the major signings, the coach, who's going to be the coach, which are the players, who's going to take different positions in the administration of the club, that more or less remains still with the East Bengal club. So it seems like for the first time we're seeing two different entities working in the same club which is the East Bengal club. And the football team is being managed by East Bengal mostly, and the brand of it is looked at as a completely different entity by the investors, and that's being managed by Quess Corp, who will be advertising the brand out to others, and sell logos on their jersey and keep the profit for themselves. So I have not seen anything like this in Indian football before, but it really boils the core functionality of football clubs down to the detail. That this is how you can merge the two. This is how you can have the clubs.
Talking about power control over here. We know the final say will be with the East Bengal officials. That was somewhere expected. You do know the way these clubs have been sustained for over so long. It's because of these officials. Somewhere you curse them. You want that continuity to be there. That that traditional feel of the club. Maybe that is the reason that they have this final say clause in the argument. But then it does not put the Quess away from the football aspect as well.
I mean,
it may not have them. It may not have them have control, or probably give that these are your shortlisted options. Probably when you have a coach selection, go in for these coaches, go in for these kind of players, go in for these type of investment in so and so department. That may not happen, but then I think close to 70% of the suggestions or the recommendation has to be coming from Quess. You do own the brand value of the club and the responsibility to grow that, you should be having at least some way of recommending or pushing things at least to a limit. Maybe that is the kind of new look, or I would say a kind of a mini revolution that we are seeing at East Bengal here.
Yeah, and it's going to be very interesting how this plays out, because we know there are characters in East Bengal who may act in a more selfish manner and try to exert more control, and that may piss off the corporate partners. But frankly, I can't even think of any other case, at least in Asian football, where this has properly worked. But yeah, I agree with you that a lot of the suggestions will come from Quess Corp. Maybe East Bengal club, the core East Bengal club group, which is represented in the executive board, they will mostly agree with all the suggestions, and that's why it becomes a real partnership, because this is not permanent. This equilibrium they have in the management is not permanent. It requires both sides, both Quess Corp and the East Bengal officials, to cooperate with each other to maintain the proper functioning of this team. So that's going to be interesting, and that opens up to other questions like this. We know Mohan Bagan have a similar deal, or at least 2 or 3 similar deals on the plate. And so far, all of that has been falling apart because all the corporate entities wanted full control, executive decision over what is going to happen, and that's what was not to the liking of let's say Anjan Mitra faction and many others who thought they would be booted out of the club and their power positions. Maybe the East Bengal deal can serve as a draft, and it can guide other clubs to sign similar deals. Do you see
Yeah,
that
I think
happening?
it's mostly going to be leading, a similar kind of power sharing between, the new deal. We obviously know now what happens at East Bengal. Kind of simulates at Mohun Bagan to some extent. But there are similar problems going on at the back room for both big clubs. So I think one leads the way. Probably you have something similar, if not is on the same line. But that this is the professional approach that you always stressed on. You want those CEOs to come in. If it's not going to be happening in one season. And again, till you are part of the I League, it's always going to be difficult. Once you move into the well organized, well structured ISL, there we will see the big changes coming in. But probably this season, we will see something similar happening at Mohun Bagan, and you have a 3 or 4 year plan that's also active for Mohun Bagan, and then probably down 2 years we will see more control being given to the private holders of the club.
It's all about fluid transition of power. And it would definitely be much better if professionals are handling these clubs other than these amateurs who fight over a mic on a stage in front of the whole world. It's sad to see Mohun Bagan still not quite there. But I have a suspicion that the reason the faction wars in Mohun Bagan have escalated so much, it is not just because elections are coming up. It's also because there is a deal like that on the table which both parties like, and they just want to win the election so that they are in the power when that deal is signed. And once that deal is signed, they will have that control forever, because the club makes the decision about the deal, but the football team is regarded as a separate entity from the larger club. Right, you get what I'm saying. Like both East Bengal and Mohun Bagan have cricket teams. They have they sponsor various athletes in different fields. But that's part of the member-based larger body. But the football team itself is either a private limited or a public limited. Now Mohun Bagan may become a public limited and trade shares publicly of the football team, not the club itself. But whoever signs the papers, whoever is on charge once that deal is agreed upon, will become a permanent part of that private or public limited, and that's what they're fighting for. It's about who gets to sign that paper, and it's considering how football is going to grow over the next 20 years. These shares are going to be like gold, because you can just imagine how much of a boost East Bengal and Mohun Bagan will receive. It just tells you, look at the Quess Corp deal with East Bengal. For I-League, they get 10 crore. For ISL, they get 4-5 times. That's the difference in exposure. That's the difference in marketing level. That's the difference in sponsor interest and crowd interest overall. You want your team to be seen on prime time across multiple channels in various languages so that it gets more and more viewers, and the logo is seen by more and more people. And that's what the game is all about at this point. And it seems like East Bengal and Mohun Bagan will become the most rich clubs of the country pretty soon. And who knows where we go from there. If East Bengal and Mohun Bagan already have really good scouting networks, which is how they find these cheap quality players, especially from Africa or other Eastern Europe or countries like that. If they have, access to considerable amount of money, they will become title contenders in ISL in no time. And then we have Bengaluru, East Bengal, Mumbai City, and all these FC Goa, all these big time ambitious clubs just going at each other in a new ISL, which is the top division league of the country. How does it sound, Kevin?
It sounds good. It sounds hopeful. It sounds realistic. But then I think there's some time to obviously see all the things in transition. But yeah, I get the feel that from a Mohun Bagan fan, somebody who's seen it so close, but it's always hope that you want to see the professional approach. Yeah. I think these are steps taken towards a good future. And
there's also the rumors that's going around in the market that various foreign-based companies, some of them already associated with football, some of them not, I don't want to go ahead and repeat specific rumors because most of it is unsubstantiated at this point or unconfirmed. So it seems like multiple ISL franchises are attracting foreign investment of a similar nature. So imagine if we have different entities which own football clubs across many countries come in and invest in Indian football. Suddenly we will have better access to training, better access to players, a better player exchange program, and suddenly India becomes a transactional part of world football in terms of player transfer and holding friendlies. Kerala Blasters are holding that tournament, which is great. It's just going to become, football is just going to become more and more prevalent and global within the country. And isn't that what we want to see as the early steps of making India a global notable player in football? It seems like it's following the China model here.
Yeah, and it just opened up the eyes of the administrators and the ones who put down football so far. Probably this gives them a headway to think about more broadly than being the narrow approach of just looking at trophies and medals to bring home.
Yeah, maybe in 30 years football will rival cricket in terms of popularity and reach and the economy size around it. It already has way more teams than cricket has, and it does not have the restrictions in private enterprise and club tournaments like cricket has. Either cricket becomes more club oriented or football just overtakes them with sheer volume. So let's just see what happens down the line. So many exciting possibilities. Only if people in IOA had the eyes to see these possibilities and participate in it, because if they're a part of this development process, it benefits them too. And if it benefits IOA, it benefits all Olympic sports in the country. But it seems like they don't have that outlook right now. Hopefully people open their eyes and East Bengal and Mohun Bagan get themselves sorted, and we get to see India in Asian Games come to 2022. So with that hope, we will end this episode today. Thanks for listening to us. I am Chiranjit Oja. You can find me on Twitter at @Chiranjit Oja. With me was Kevin Barboza, who can be found at @Boza_Kevin on Twitter. And also listen to all the podcasts by IVM Podcasts on their IVM Podcast app, where you can find the best Indian podcasts all in one place. You can also listen to this episode on Stitcher, iTunes, SoundCloud, or whatever podcasting platform that you prefer. We'll come back next week. We will be at the heat of the World Cup finales and everything, and we will bring you all the details about what's happening in the World Cup and whatever is happening in Indian football in that relation or otherwise. So come back to us next week. Thank you.
Did I just catch you on your way to work? Or did you end up pulling an all-nighter? Let me guess. You have a packed schedule for the day, the week, and probably the month and the year. That's a lot for your mind to handle, don't you think? This buzzing chaos also brings tons of negative thoughts. Am I right? Try spinning that bottle in a positive direction with me, Chetna, on the Positively Unlimited podcast, every Monday on IBM Podcasts. It's time to change your life one alphabet at a time.
Yeah. It's IVM here, let's go. We the IVM kids on the block over here. Just to talk, taking a break from producing all day, coming on this podcast cause we got stuff to say. IVM Daily is the name of the show. Monday to Friday, we ready to go. Talking about stuff in our head, we might even talk about our favorite bread. Signing out, it's IVM here, the podcast network that's in your ear.
Catch IVM Daily, Monday to Friday on the IVM Podcast app or wherever you get your podcasts.